All right. So, Cyberpunk 2077. Just finished streaming it after playing it for about roughly a month. I haven't streamed that often, but. Um, all right. Cyberpunk 2077. Where to start? The game started slow. I should not have done the tutorial. It was kind of beneficial to a point, but at the same time, it was like a little bit long. But it made me aware of what I needed to do. Like most games, usually at the beginning, it takes you a bit of time to figure out how things work and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Um, so let's start with the graphics. The graphics are good, but sometimes there's areas where it's iffy, and I'm not talking about like glitches and stuff, but some stuff is really like looks really really sharp and looks great and lighting and stuff like that, and then you get into a building where the tools look like they're a piece of paper in like an 8-bit. It's like it looks horrible, but for the most part the city looks really really cool. um Traveling the city is really cool. Seeing the coastline, seeing the city from on top. There's many different vantage points. The characters look pretty good. Each character has either it's a side character or a person on the street. They all have their distinctive faces, their distinctive styles, their character, their personality. Um, and as I was playing this, I was telling myself that it's because the thing is the graphics for this game are similar to The Witcher, just at higher fidelity. So to me, like in this game, it actually makes sense that the skin is shiny all the time because they have augments or it's not real skin. And so yeah, it's a little bit weird, but in general, it's pretty good. There are glitches, obviously. There are things that look out of place or they don't shine properly or whatever the case may be. It is the way it is. In terms of so from a graphic interface, I think it would be 7 or 8 on 10. It wasn't fully realistic. There were improvements to be made, but they did what they had to do with what they had. The sound and audio, I think it sounded great. The music, although I didn't turn it on during the streams, I did listen to the album. I didn't, and I there's a few parts of the game you can't shut off, like the parts with getting with the band together with Silverhand. Um, so if that's and that sounded awesome. It sounded absolutely fantastic from techno to rock to whatever in between. It was really really well done. The voice acting was really good. I really like the protagonist, um, V. He was really well voiced. To me, it sounded like one of the voices in Mafia series, but apparently it's not the case. But I think it was a really good voice. I didn't take the female, obviously. I took the male version of V. And every other character was voiced really well. They were voiced uniquely. Um, and I think what also helped is the dialogue was pretty good. Sometimes pretty lengthy, I will admit. Sometimes it was like some sequences I was like, come on, okay, let's go already, right? But in this case, they did it really well. And it was a really good, like, dialogue felt natural. Sometimes, sorry for all the yawning. I'm tired. Sometimes the audio would be fine, but the graphics would kind of be different because you picked a different option or whatever, and it kind of would be glitchy. But it's part of the glitches. I don't think it's not part of that particular. I can't knock it for that particular part. It was probably a glitch or the way it did it. I didn't like the way the dialogue would be sped up if you skipped it. It didn't actually just skip it. It looked like it would fast forward to like the next stop, the next part, which was odd. I didn't do it very often. Sometimes I pressed the button by mistake and it would just fast forward. So I apologize for that during my playthrough. Um, So I actually really, really like the audio. The gun sounds, the car sounds, whatever. It was part of the ambiance. Something I really enjoyed, which is part of graphics and the audio. I really love the fact that the city looks like it's lived in. There's too many times where you're playing like an Assassin's Creed, or you're playing another open world game, and it doesn't look like it's lived in. You see like one settler or one whatever. Here it actually looks like Night City is actually lived in. You go into an apartment building, there's people there, there's people sitting outside, there's people on the ledges. You're going in the streets, people are walking, there's traffic in the streets. I think that was really, really well done. It's a little bit of detail that I really appreciate with the game itself. Um, the presentation, I think, was done pretty well. It was easy to navigate through the menus. Um, it didn't take too long to actually get used to the controls. It was pretty standard from that perspective. From an RPG perspective, I do find from a presentation perspective, I'm going to go into the gameplay later on, but from a presentation perspective, I think it did what it was supposed to do. It's well presented. It's a cyberpunk world. Really well done. When I was first playing this, what I was thinking is that it was part The Ascent and part Deus Ex. I said The Ascent because it was dark, and in The Ascent, because it's an asymmetric view, and I always thought that I wanted to be a first person shooter, and I wanted to go in all the little stores and all the nook and crannies, right? And you could really have done in that game. So I was like, meh. However, this allowed me to be in a cyberpunk world in the first person and actually go a little bit everywhere and do side quests. So that was really fun. Um, the So next is the gameplay. So from a gameplay perspective, the the game doesn't necessarily wow you. It's a typical action RPG in today's day and age. It doesn't reinvent the wheel. It plays it pretty safe. Um, it's not super. It's not super innovative, but it's satisfying. Because if I would compare this, let's say, to Fallout, the fighting was a lot more rewarding. If I can compare this to a Halo, it's not as good as Halo. So it kind of made it's a good mix between one or the other. It's not bad, it's not good, not great, but it's in the middle. It does the job. It does what it's supposed to do, and it does it relatively well. The one thing I will say though is when picking up items, it was really the hitbox for the items were out of whack, and I don't know if that's an Xbox thing, if it was a bug thing, a quick resume thing, I don't know. But like, let's say I had something over here, I would have to scan it over here in order to pick it up. If I put my crosshairs right over it, it wouldn't recognize what the item was. So stupid. And it's happened to me a few times. There's actually items that I technically was supposed to be able to pick up. I just could not pick them up. It never showed up that I had the opportunity to pick them up. So it's really weird. The gameplay feels really satisfying. The driving to me was fine. I know a lot of people complained about the driving initially and the cops. I guess they must have fixed it because I didn't see any problems with that. The driving was actually pretty good. Now it depends of the car you're driving. Some cars are slippery or they really are bad. But if you use the main story, the main engines you get in the main story, which is basically Delamain, you get the Hella, maybe a few motorcycles. It's absolutely fine. It does the job. Um, so I really didn't have a problem with that, and I really enjoyed the fact that going, you drive into the city, and also what I enjoyed is, I'll tell you, that you're in a storyline and you're in a car, you have the opportunity to skip to the end if there's no more dialogue, which is really appreciated. Because sitting into a car where it's silent, especially when you don't have a radio, that could be really long. So from that perspective, I really, really enjoyed it. So the gameplay was okay. It wasn't revolutionary, but it did what it was supposed to do. The story. It's a game that's more about the journey than the destination. The main storyline is relatively about, if you power through it, and you could do it at a lower level too. You could probably get through the game in about 20 hours. The main story. What makes the game really really awesome is the side quests. Is the fact that you can go back and make side quests. Um, Really, yeah, it's more the journey than the destination. I Not that I felt that the ending was disappointing. In fact, I actually did like the ending, at least the ending that I got. Um, and they kind of leave it open. Now I don't know which ending is going to be canon if they do make a second one. I doubt they're going to make a second one, but I think, if I remember correctly, somebody had mentioned that there's not one ending that actually cures V fully, and there's one that comes close. So this one is probably the one that comes the closest because you're split from Johnny, and you have 6 months to live with the hope that maybe somebody could fix you up. I think that they made it so that if they do make a second one, they could use V again because he would be cured for whatever reason. And on the other side, you would have, if they don't make a sequel, well, you have the ending where he could potentially die after 6 months. So I think they played that one safe. But I enjoyed the ending. I just found that the meat of the actual main story was a little bit weak. It's interesting, but they could have done a little bit something else with the main story. Hey Viper, how's it going? So I'm doing the review right now, my mini review of the game, and so the main story is about that. So it's more about the journey than the destination. The side missions are actually pretty fun, and I have to admit that they're not overly repetitive. Yes, some of them are repetitive to a point, but they're not. It's not like an Assassin's Creed where you do a side quest. You do see the so in my particular ending, I took Nomad and I finished with Pan Am. So I went in with the with Pan Am and her group, and I finished with Pan Am, and we split. Me and Johnny split. So yeah, there's a lot of side quests that I really enjoyed. The Pan Am quest, to be fair, was probably one of the more interesting ones. Probably because it has a romance aspect to it. There's other romance options I know based on your character. I think if you're female, you can go with David or Judy. I think. So there's that. I enjoyed it. There's aspects of the side missions I didn't like. I didn't really like the fighting part. I honestly couldn't give a shit about the fighting part. It's probably a good way of getting XP. I just couldn't care less about fighting people and getting beating. There's that one in the races. I did 2 to 3 races. I think I finished first on the first one and second in the second one. I never finished that storyline. So there's that. So yeah, there's a lot of side quests that I truly enjoyed. I did like the fact that you can just go into and spawn go after police raid in the middle and so on and so forth. So I did enjoy it. Like I said before, the city feels lived in, and it's actually pretty cool to see. Um, so having said that, so we went through the graphics, we went through the story, we went through the gameplay, we went through the main important parts. Overall, what did I think about the game? It's actually not bad. I would have to say that if I compare it to The Witcher 3, I think The Witcher 3 was more not it was more the story was richer, whereas this one you kind of go through and you kind of go through the motions. I did, as I was going along with the story, I felt more about so it started when you're losing Jackie, which is supposed to be your best friend, but you don't stay with him long enough to actually feel for him. Yeah, you're supposed to feel bad for him, but it's not. They should have had him die like midway game, at least to make it feel that way. Um, so that didn't really resonate really quickly with me. However, as the game was progressing, I did feel the relationships were growing slowly but surely. Either it was Delamain or it was Judy or Misty or whatever the case may be. Each character felt like they had something to give and they had a background, right? David's story was pretty good too, as well. So as a whole, I think that it's not bad. Remove CD Projekt Red and the bad launch. I think it was pretty good. I will mention though the 1.5 patch. So I'm on the Xbox Series X, and I did not like this. So I was on the fence about updating Cyberpunk or not. But apparently Xbox decided to do it for me. So it installed the patch. The issue is that it removed all my perk points. Not my actual, not the blue ones, not the main ones, but the ones that are in yellow that you can pick. They all got stripped and reset, which sucks. I guess and I don't know if this is for a fact, but I know that they apparently made easy harder. So with patch 1.5, so I don't know if it was a way for them to say, okay, reset it for free because you're supposed to pay a fee for resetting your perk points, so that you're ready for the last part. Because I wasn't literally at the last part. I was at Nocturne. There was the point of no return. So that one wasn't too great. I didn't have enough time to play with the game itself to see if there was less items in the world. Apparently, they were supposed to remove some items to make it less easy. I don't. We'll see. I don't think. Other than that, I don't think the patch affected me. It worked just fine. I just rebooted the game and it was fine. Um, so removing all the bugs and everything that happened, if I would put this under Studio A, would I think this is a great game? Yeah. I think it would be a really good game. It has replayability if you really want to. There's different endings. There's different ways to go through. You can play different types of characters. The stealth is a little bit wonky. I always go in guns blazing. It's not like a Deus Ex where you can actually do stealth properly. But because there were some parts of the game that were really difficult to do stealth. It was really difficult. And I don't know if it's because I missed a silencer or I didn't have a silencer or whatever the case may be, but that was pretty difficult to do. But in general, it was. I went in guns blazing and I was fine. Um, so yeah, if it was a different studio, I think it would have gone a lot better. Because if I look at the game itself, in the state that it was in while I was playing most of the game, which is patch 1.4, I'm assuming, I have to say that it's just as buggy as a Bethesda game. If anything, it did crash on me once, which sucked, but it's auto saved, so it was pretty good. Um, so then they what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something and I completely forgot. I lost my track of mind. Um, holy crap! Yeah. So if it was a different studio, I think it would have been fine. Oh yeah. So if it would have been like there were studios like Spider that did Greenfall, um, which was a very repetitive. I loved the story, but the gameplay was a little bit repetitive. I feel that I really feel that it was good. It was good enough for that. It was better than Greedfall. Bug wise, I mean, people let Bethesda go for the bugs they have. So if you do, you can't you can't give crap to this game. Was it released in a non-polished state? Yes, it was. Did they make a bad decision in making it backwards compatible to previous generations of consoles? Yes, they did. I think this should have been just a straight next gen title. People wouldn't have complained as much. The PC version had problems, but it did get patched. So all in all, I think it's a decent game, especially the fact that I'm playing it a year and a half later, where the dust has settled. I think this is worth a pickup at least a reduced price, maybe not full price, but if you can get it for $30, it's perfectly fine. Um, Now they're supposed to. I don't know if they scrapped the multiplayer yet. I don't think it needs a multiplayer, to be honest. Um, I wish there would be some DLC to maybe go into some of the backgrounds of other characters that you didn't necessarily go through in the main story, like Misty, or I don't know, the police commissioner that calls you all the time to do gigs. Maybe go in the background of that. So I don't know what the goal is for 2077, the future of 2077. But yeah, I hope that they do make a second one. They tweak this one. I think they won't make the same mistakes they did with this one. Although I have a feeling that because it got so much negative press, they might leave this for a long while and focus more on The Witcher 4. But we'll see how it goes. All in all, I think it's a decent game. I would give it a solid 8 on 10 if I had to give it I don't really give it a rating usually. I go base myself on if I would recommend this to a friend or not. And if you're a fan of first person shooters, Fallout type of thing, with a lot of lore, there's a lot of reading in this game. A lot of lore. If you like The Witcher, you probably like Cyberpunk 2077. I just don't think it's at the level of a Witcher 3. I think Witcher 3 the story was a lot more rich, but you see the stamp of CD Projekt Red in this game, how the side quests are done, the level of detail in the city. Graphically, even though sometimes it didn't look as polished in certain areas for certain things, you see the stamp of CD Projekt Red. And it kind of sucks because I kind of like, the developers that worked on it, like you see the credits at the end of the game, they're pretty intense. Like there's a lot of people that worked on this game, and to have everybody just shit on it like when it came out, I get it. It was unpolished, and they made a mistake, but they made a mistake. Like, and they still got people to buy it. So I mean, and a lot of people wanted refunds. All right, fine. I didn't get a refund. I literally kept it. I knew they were gonna patch it. It's in a playable state. There's nothing that stops you from playing it. So I really appreciate it. Playing it, I really happy that I played it. I didn't really. I mean, Keanu Reeves was really cool. Actually, probably the best dialogue you have with Keanu Reeves, or Silverhand, is at the end. There's like during the game there's always like one-liners, and it's not a conversation with few exceptions, but at the end you actually have a deep conversation with him, and he actually like you see him like he's changed since the beginning, right? And I appreciated that. I think Keanu Reeves did a pretty good job of voicing it. I think they just added him in the game. I think they could have done more with him, to be perfectly honest. Maybe to spruce up the main storyline, maybe to play like, a memory or a flashback or something. That would have been pretty cool. They did it in cinematics to a point, but they didn't really exploit that. Maybe that would be cool. Like maybe that could be a DLC as well, like an actual expansion where you play you play you play out the last days of Silverhand when he went to Arasaka Tower, right? So they show it to you, but you didn't get to that point. What led to that point, right? So, yeah, I think it's a recommendation. I think I would recommend it to friends if they wanted to play something fun. And what I appreciated about it, it's not that long, and that's kind of the reason why I like Fallout 3 as well. It's the main story is not super long, but if you want to do side quests, you can prolong your fun that way. You can 100% it. There could be. I played it at least 50 hours, and that's not doing all the side quests. I can easily see this game giving you 100 hours easy. If you do everything and you read everything, yeah, you can have like so much fun. I just wanted it to end at some point because I don't have unlimited time to play games. So I might actually come back to it and play it. So I would recommend it to friends. I think it's worth it. I think if you want to, when it's on special, there's a discount, which is probably the case now, anyways. Go for it. I think there's no qualms. Yes, you may not agree with CD Projekt Red, and if you don't want to buy it because you're supporting them because you don't agree with them, that's up to you. But those that want to play the game, I think it's really worthwhile, and I think it's worth it. So that is my review for CG Mini Reviews. I have finished Cyberpunk 2077. Next, I don't know what I'm going to be playing. So the next time I play probably will be Friday night, maybe tomorrow night. We'll see how that goes, and we'll play it by ear. All right, guys, have a wonderful evening. Thank you to everyone that passed by to watch me play through this whole playthrough. You guys are fantastic, and I really, really appreciate all the support you guys give me. So have a great night, have a great week, and I shall see you next time. Have a good one, guys. Ciao.